A bankrupt black businessman gives a ride to a hitchhiker without knowing that she is a millionaire on the run. The engine roared as Darius stepped on the gas. 30 seconds later, 3 men in dark suits surrounded his car with unfriendly expressions. "Are you sure you didn't see a blonde woman pass by here? Maybe she asked for directions," asked the tallest of them, leaning toward the window while his eyes scanned the interior of the worn vehicle. Darius shook his head calmly, keeping his hands visible on the steering wheel. "Like I said before, sir, I'm just stopped to change a flat tire. I haven't seen anyone." The man stared at Darius for a few more seconds, his cold gaze assessing the 38-year-old black businessman in his worn suit and car with 2 years of payments in her ears. When he finally walked away, Darius exhaled the breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Are they gone?" The female voice came from the trunk, followed by the sound of the lid opening from inside. A woman with messy blonde hair emerged, her expensive running clothes covered in mud. "Thank you. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't hidden me." Darius Thomas never imagined his day would end like this. Just 3 hours ago, he had been sitting in the empty office of his tech company, staring at the final eviction notice and the pile of unpaid bills. 7 years of building a business from the ground up, and it was all falling apart because of investors who backed out at the last minute. Coincidentally, after finding out the founder was black. "Who are they?" Darius asked, watching the woman in the rearview mirror as she settled into the back seat. "My father's private security." She held out her hand. "I'm Alexander Winters, but you can call me Alex." "Darius Thomas," he replied automatically, shaking her hand. "Why are your father's security guards chasing you like you're a criminal?" Alex laughed humorlessly. "Because I ran away from home with this." She pulled a flash drive from her jacket pocket. "My father is Richard Winters, CEO of Winter Enterprise. Do you know him?" Darius froze. Winters Enterprise, the billion-dollar conglomerate, responsible for dozens of hostile startup acquisitions. The same group that had bought out his main competitor and crushed his company in the market. "I know him well," he replied, his voice now colder. "They basically destroyed my business." Alex didn't seem surprised. "So, you're just another victim of my father's business methods." She waved the flash drive. "And I have proof here that those methods are not only unethical, but completely illegal. Fraud, tax evasion, bribing regulatory agencies." Darius' cell phone vibrated with a notification. It was a stolen vehicle alert for his car's license plate. He showed the screen to Alex. "Your father just marked us as car thieves." "We need to get off the road now." Alex pulled. "He'll find me." "Not if we're prepared," Darius replied, a plan already forming in his mind. He started the engine, which miraculously started on the first try. As he drove down a back road, Darius surreptitiously watched the heiress in the back seat. How could someone born with a silver spoon in her mouth betray her own family? And why had she chosen his car to hide in? And why was Richard Winters, one of the most powerful men in the country, so desperate to get that flash drive back? What no one on that dark road could have imagined was that this seemingly chance encounter between a ruined businessman and a rebellious heiress would expose all of corruption that reached the highest echelons of power. If this story of justice against the powerful touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to follow how a simple act of kindness would transform lives and bring down an empire built on lies. 2 km ahead, there's a dirt road. "Turn there," Alex instructed, looking nervously in the rearview mirror. "I know a place where we can stay for now." Darius followed the directions, driving the car down an almost invisible trail between dense trees. Night had fallen completely, making driving even more challenging. After 15 minutes of bumpy road, they arrived at a small wooden cabin hidden among the vegetation. "A family property my father forgot existed," Alex explained, noticing Darius' questioning look. "Bought decades ago for a real estate project that never got off the ground." Inside the dusty cabin, Darius plugged the flash drive into his laptop. The screen lit up his face as folders and files opened, revealing Richard Winter's criminal empire. Fraudulent contracts, incriminating emails, and spreadsheets detailing bribes. But it was one specific file that made Darius freeze. "What is it?" asked Alex, approaching him when she noticed his expression. "This is." Darius pointed to the screen where a memo detailed the operation to sabotage her company, TechVision. His father didn't just buy my competitor. He deliberately ordered a cyber attack on our servers, leaked customer data, and planted false information to scare off investors. Alex took a deep breath. "I'm not surprised. That's how he built everything." Darius closed the laptop, his face a mask of controlled calm. "We need professional help. This goes way beyond the two office." The next morning, they drove across town to an inconspicuous office building. On the 6th floor, a modest sign read, "Maya Rivera Specialized Law." "Are you sure about her?" Alex whispered nervously. "Absolutely," Darius replied. "Maya was the only lawyer who tried to help me when my company was being destroyed. She suspected for years that his father operates on the fringes of the law." Maya Rivera welcomed the pair into her minimalist office. At 42, with premature gray hair and colorful eyeglass frames, the lawyer radiated a calm competence that immediately reassured Alex. "So, we finally have the evidence," Maya said after examining some of the files. "Darius, you know this is dangerous. Richard Winters isn't just powerful. He has judges, politicians, and even law enforcement agents on his payroll. That's why we need you," Darius replied. "We need someone who knows how to navigate this system." Maya smiled, determined. "We're going to need more help and an extremely careful plan." Meanwhile, in his glass skyscraper penthouse, Richard Winters was yelling at his head of security. "What do you mean you lost her? She's a spoiled 26-year-old girl. How hard can it be to find her?" The man, clearly intimidated, stammered. "Sir, we're tracking every camera in the city, but she seems to have disappeared. We believe someone is helping her." "Who?" Winters barked. The security guard slid a photo across Thetable, a low-resolution image captured by a security camera showing Darius helping Alex into his car. Richard Winters took the photo, frowning. "Who's this?" "Darius Thomas. Sir, former CEO of TechVision, a company we indirectly acquired last year." Winters laughed dismissively. "That low, sir. Alexandra could have chosen someone better." He tossed the photo back. "He's nothing. A failed businessman who couldn't even keep a mediocre startup afloat. Find them and get that flash drive back before they do something stupid." What Richard Winters didn't know was that while he was underestimating them, an unlikely team was forming. Maya had recruited her best friend, Zoe Chun, a digital security expert who had worked for the government. Together, the four of them were devising a meticulous plan in Asmal apartment far from downtown. Winters Enterprise does business with at least 3 different government agencies, Meyer explained, pointing to a Makeshift board on the wall. "If we can prove fraud in public contracts, not even Richard's contacts can save him." "The problem is their digital security," added Zoe, typing furiously on her laptop. "We need inside access to connect this evidence from a flash drive to the company's live systems." That's when Alex smiled for the first time in days. "I have access. My father has always been too paranoid to fully trust his IT team. He created master credentials for the family that never expire." "Still, we need more," said Darius thoughtfully. "We need to make Richard expose himself publicly." For 2 weeks, they worked tirelessly. Darius sold his luxury watch, the last vestige of his successful days, to finance equipment. Alex used his insider knowledge to map out the complete corporate structure. Maya prepared legal documents, and Zoe created a secure digital infrastructure to store and organize the evidence. Their first small victory came when they remotely accessed corporate emails confirming tax fraud schemes. The second came when they identified 3 judges who had received illegal payments for rulings favorable to Winter's enterprise. That evening, alone in the kitchen, Alex found Darius working late. "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. "You could have turned me in, gotten a reward, and started your life over." Darius looked up from his documents because some things are more important than money. Dignity, justice, the chance to prove that the system can work for everyone, not just men like his father. Alex nodded slowly. "You could have been one of them. You know, rich, powerful." "Never," Darius replied with Eric's smile. "They would never let me into the club. Not with this skin." The next day, Richard Winters held a press conference announcing the largest acquisition in the company's history, the purchase of Garner Technologies, a rival corporation. No one noticed a black man in a simple suit watching discreetly from the back row. Nor did they imagine that this would be the beginning of the end for one of the most powerful men in the country. As the cameras flashed and reporters asked fawning questions, Darius slipped out of the hall, typing a message to the group. Phase 1 complete. He has no idea what's coming. What Richard Winters could never have suspected was that while he was talking about business integrity and corporate responsibility, for ordinary people were gathering the tools to expose his lies. The man he had called a failure had turned his greatest weakness, being perpetually underestimated, into his most powerful weapon. And in the next 72 hours, the world of the powerful would be turned upside down. The Winter Enterprise auditorium was packed for the announcement of the biggest corporate merger of the year. Richard Winters smiled for the cameras as slides showed rising graphs. "This acquisition represents the future of our industry," he proclaimed. Winters Enterprise Hazelway's been guided by ethics and innovation. It was at that exact moment that every cell phone in the auditorium vibrated simultaneously. An anonymous link accompanied by the message, "Viral Winters Enterprise." Confusion reigned. Continuing, Richard tried, noticing the sudden change. Mr. Winters interrupted a female reporter. "Could you comment on the documents showing that your company deliberately sabotaged smaller competitors, including TechVision?" The blood drained from Richard's face. In the back rows, Darius watched calmly, Maya at his side. "Absurd," Richard replied. "Clearly forgeries. What about the records of payments to judges?" asked another reporter. "Or the emails detailing systematic tax evasion?" The screens around them, remotely controlled by Zoe, began displaying emails, memos, and spreadsheets extracted directly from the company's servers. "Where's Alexandra?" Richard shouted at his security chief. "This is her doing, isn't it?" In response, the screens displayed a recorded message from Alex. "My name is Alexandra Winters. I am presenting this evidence because I believe that no company should be above the law. These are internal documents that prove years of predatory practices, systematic discrimination against Black and Latino entrepreneurs, tax evasion, and judicial corruption." Richard tried to turn off the monitors, but it was too late. At the back of the auditorium, federal agents entered discreetly. Maya had coordinated with authorities, ensuring full legal backing. "This is a conspiracy," Richard shouted. "My own daughter manipulated by jealous competitors." "No one manipulated your daughter," Darius said. Finally standing up, she made her own moral decision, something you clearly never did. "You," Richard recognized him. "That incompetent businessman. You think this will bring your little company back?" "I'm not here for my company. I'm here for justice for all the entrepreneurs you systematically destroyed because they didn't fit your preferred profile." A murmur ran through the auditorium. Winters Enterprises stock was plummeting in real time on the screens. "You have no idea who you're dealing with," Richard whispered. "I have judges, politicians." "Not anymore," Maya interrupted, flashing her badge. "Maya Rivera, Special Advisor to the Department of Justice." All those friends are already under investigation. The agents approached with arrest warrants. Richard Winters, you are under arrest on charges of tax fraud, active corruption, and antitrust violations, announced the lead agent. As they led him away, Richard cast one last desperate glance at Darius. You think you've won? This isn't over. It was over the moment you chose profit over decency. The global press reported on the unprecedented scandal. The fall of Winters' enterprise shook markets and opened investigations on 3 continents. Documents revealed that Richard had systematically sabotaged companies founded by minorities. Zoe, Maya, and Alex found Darius in a cafe far from the media chaos. We did it, said Alex, exhausted but relieved. Now what? Asked Zoe. What are you going to do, Darius? What I've always wanted to do, build technology that truly serves people, not just the powerful. Are you going to restart TechVision? Asked Maya. Something new? Replied Darius. Something I could never have done before because the system was closed to people like me. His cell phone vibrated with a notification from the Department of Justice about compensation for affected companies. Justice was beginning to take its course. That night, while Richard Winters spent his first night in prison, Darius and Alexandra gazed out at the city. What do you feel? She asked. Revenge? No, Darius replied. I feel like there's finally a chance for me, for others like me. As the city lights sparkled against the night sky, an unlikely partnership was forged. The privileged daughter who rejected her corrupt empire and the resilient entrepreneur who refused to give up. What no one could have predicted was how this collapse would fundamentally change the corporate world, and the real transformation was just beginning. 3 years have passed since the fall of the Winters Empire. On the rooftop of a modern building in the city center, Darius Thomas watched the sunset as the team at Horizon Technologies, his new company, celebrated its founding anniversary on the terrace. Horizon had been born from the ashes of TechVision. Using the court settlement he received after the Winters case, Darius created an incubator focused specifically on startups founded by entrepreneurs from underrepresented groups. In just 3 years, he had launched 17 successful companies and transformed the lives of dozens of talented individuals who, like him, had been systematically excluded from the technology ecosystem. Mr. Thomas, your live interview begins in 5 minutes, his assistant warned him. Darius adjusted his tie and headed to the makeshift studio. The broadcast was for the show New Leaders, which highlighted innovative entrepreneurs. We're live with Darius Thomas, founder of Horizon Technologies and recently named Entrepreneur of the Year, announced the host. Darius, your story has inspired thousands. From bankrupt entrepreneur to one of the most influential figures in the industry in just 3 years. What was the secret? Darius smiled. There is no secret, just the realization that true success is not about winning alone, but about opening doors for others to enter as well. Meanwhile, miles away in a minimum security prison, Richard Winters watched the same interview on a small community television. His once imposing face now showed deep signs of defeat. The 7-year sentence for corporate crimes was only the beginning of his punishment. His fortune had been confiscated, his property sold, his name turned into a synonym for corruption and corporate prejudice. Your lawyer is here, Winters, announced a guard, interrupting his bitter thoughts. In the visiting room, a tired-looking young lawyer waited with a briefcase. Mr. Winters, I have bad news. The last appeal has been denied, and the Winters Foundation for Corporate Equality has just announced its first round of grants. Richard laughed bitterly. My own daughter using what little of my money is left to fund people like Thomas. Actually, corrected the lawyer, Miss Winters is working directly with Mr. Thomas. She is the director of the foundation. Across town, Alex was wrapping up a meeting with potential grantees at the foundation's headquarters. After the scandal, She had chosen to use her privilege and what remained of her family fortune for reparations. The foundation identified entrepreneurs from marginalized communities and offered them funding, mentoring, and connections. I never imagined I'd be on the other side of Thetable. Maya Rivera, now a legal partner at Horizon, remarked as they walked to the celebratory dinner. "Remember when we used to hide in that cabin planning to take down your father?" Alex smiled. "Sometimes I wonder if I've done enough to make up for the harm my family caused." "There's no perfect compensation," replied Zoe Chun, who headed Horizon's digital security department, "but there is a commitment to do better." At the restaurant, Darius raised his glass in a toast. Surrounding him were not only his closest friends, but dozens of new entrepreneurs whose lives he had helped transform. "3 years ago, we were fighting a system that seemed invincible," he said. "Today, we're not just changing the game. We're rewriting the rules. This is just the beginning." Later that night, after everyone had left, Darius and Alex remained on the office balcony, gazing out at the illuminated city. "Have you ever thought about how it all started?" Alex asked. "With you hiding me in the trunk of your broken-down car." "Destiny," Darius replied simply. "No choice," Alex corrected. "You chose to help me when you could have turned mean. I chose to stand up to my father when I could have kept quiet. It's our choices that define who we are, not our birth or our past." Darius nodded, reflecting on how a series of choices, some small, some monumental, had transformed his life and the lives of so many others. He had created something bigger and more meaningful than he had ever dreamed of with Tech Vision. It wasn't just about money or personal success, but about fundamentally changing the structures of power. Their revenge against Richard Winters wasn't his spectacular downfall, but the quiet revolution that came after, one where people like Darius no longer had to beg for a seat at the table, because now they built their own tables and invited others to sit down. This is their lesson of this story. Justice isn't just about taking down the powerful, but about rebuilding fairer systems from the ruins of the old ones. It's about turning pain into purpose and rejection into revolution. And sometimes the catalyst for that change comes from the most unexpected place, like an unlikely alliance between a bankrupt black entrepreneur and a millionaire heiress on the run. If this story of justice and transformation has touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories that remind you that no matter where we start, it's our choices that determine where we end up, and that the sweetest victory is not destroying our enemies, but building a world where their weapons of exclusion and prejudice become obsolete.